Hey, this is Jeremy with Strength in Numbers. Medical costs can be very expensive, unpredictable as to what they're going to cost, and very difficult to budget for. But I'm going to show you today some key principles I use to help my clients budget for medical expenses. Did you know that medical costs are the #1 cause of bankruptcy? I do not want that to happen to you. So I want to take some time today just to walk you through a quick primer on how I budget for medical costs, because let's be honest, it is the most complicated thing to plan for. First, you've got the issue of the fact that prices are ridiculous and they vary. One doctor could charge X, another doctor could charge Y, and you don't even know what it is they're charging because they've got to talk to the insurance company and get their approved amount back and all these different types of things. So I'm going to walk you through today exactly what that looks like and how you can plan for that. Now, it's important to understand that you're not going to nail this the first time. I didn't nail it the first time. I don't nail it any time. It is going to be a ballpark number, but it's better than having no clue. And especially when you're waiting for the bills to come 2-3 months after you've had the service, it's #1, that's an opportunity to have the money saved up. But #2, it's definitely a situation where you wonder what the heck they're going to be charging. You have no idea. So I'm going to talk about how we can break that down. So the first thing is looking here at a benefits coverage guide, often also called a summary of benefits and coverage. Okay, so when the summary of benefits and coverage, you're going to see exactly what this particular plan that you've chosen offers. So you want to go to your HR department, at your company, or your employer if you work at a smaller company or wherever it is, to find this type of document. There's going to be many pages. It can be 8 pages, 16 pages, depends on the plan. And it's going to break down for you exactly everything you need to know. As you can see here in this example, it's going to tell you exactly what the deductible is for an individual, for a family, and so on. It's going to tell you if there's deductible situations where it gets waived and you don't have to pay a deductible or reach it first to get paid. It's going to talk about every single kind of care that you might want: a specialist visit, a general doctor, a diagnostic, x-ray, blood work, imaging, maternity, mental health, prescription drugs, you name it. It's all going to be in this document, and it's laid out in a nice grid form. It tells you what the service may be, what your cost is going to be in network, what your cost is going to be out network, any limitations and little nuances. It's not actually that difficult to read through, so I encourage you to start there because this is the basis for how much you're going to need to pay out of pocket. First, your deductible, and then also as you get the service, after you meet the deductible, if it's not something you're waiving the deductible for, like preventative care, what you're going to owe after that. Is this a solid dollar copay, or is it a percentage of whatever you're charged? So that's the first step. Okay, the second step is to look at your EOBs. That stands for Explanation of Benefits. Now, this is an old document that I pulled from my archives to give you an example, and you should be getting documents like this from your provider after they've billed and informing you of what you owe. And they may not even send an actual invoice. You might just get this explanation of benefits from the insurance company, but it all depends on the provider. Usually you tend to get this before the providers billed you because the insurance company is notifying you at the same time or just before they notify them as to what is going to be owed from you. And so as you can see, the complication here, in this case, this was, looks like it was for my daughter. There was some kind of pediatric dental check here by her pediatrician. And you can see the cost, the name of the service with the actual code that they billed with. And you can see it says submitted charges. And that's the amount that the doctor went to the insurance company and says, we want to charge $135. It says next, negotiated or allowed. Allowed is a key word, allowed amount. That is literally what the insurance company is going back to the provider and saying, no, you can't charge $135. You can charge $108.71. How they come up with that number, I don't know. Okay. Then if there's any services that are not payable by plan, which means it's not covered, that would be listed in the next column. What you owe, what your deductible amount is, any amount remaining, different types of things like this. Now, because this was preventative care, nothing else was owed. Okay, so that's an example of where you're not going to have any copay or deductible applicable. It still showed the amount remaining. So if for some reason your deductible wasn't here, and let's say you hadn't met your deductible of $500 or $5,000 or whatever, the whole amount would be listed here in your deductible, and then amount remaining would be zero because it's all on you. If you had only $20 of your deductible left to meet, this column would say $20, this would say $88.71, and then it would show the percentage which they cover after your deductible. And then the plan pays this, your share is that. So let's use a nicer round number that's not here, for example. Let's use this $30 number imaginary, saying that they are going to cover it. Now, let's say I had $10 deductible left to met, and $20 is what they're going to pay a portion of. I'm going to have to pay 10. They're going to take the 20. They're going to apply the 80% number here to it, and that means in that case they're going to owe 16, and I'm going to owe 4. So I'm going to owe a total of 14, the rest of my deductible, and the $4. Now, if I already met my whole deductible and they were just covering 80% of the whole 30, then in that case they would pay $21 and I'd pay 9, or excuse me, 24 and 6. So it's one of those situations where is a mathematical breakdown was like 6 columns for every line. It's complicated, right? So it's important just to know what your provider charges and what's normally allowed. And when you start there, you can run the math yourself without all this rigmarole. This is from a past billing example. And so that way you can just look and see, well, when the providers billed 135, they've approved 108. When the providers bill 55, they've approved 50, whatever. And you can say that $50 amount is what's going to be based on. If I know I go to the chiropractor every month and they're not going to cover until I've hit my $500 deductible, well, then the first 10 times they're not going to be covered. So I'm going to have to pay out of pocket $500, and then I'm going to have to pay 20% on the other $100, right? So that's another $20. So I'm going to have to pay $520 out of $600, and you can start doing that math. It can be complicated, and this is definitely why I coach people through this stuff, and I help them go line by line, okay? Thirdly, along these lines is make a list of all the providers that you see regularly. If you're relatively healthy, then just make a plan to go to the doctor for a sick visit twice a year and budget that in based on what you would owe out of your pocket for that situation and put that in the budget. If you do see any doctor regularly, you can look back at history, you can call the doctor's office if you're not sure and you don't have these records, then you can go back and make a plan for what it is that they're going to charge you, excuse me, so you can make a plan for what your regular obligations will be. If you see the cardiologist every 3 months, know what that is, and that's 3 months that's going to be out of your pocket. And then you can start to see a trend over the year of what your costs should be, and then you can push the deductible math into that, because the deductible is going to be met progressively throughout the year until you meet the whole thing. Unless you're not going to meet the whole year, then you know it's all out of pocket. Otherwise, if you look and you go, I'm going to have $8,000 of medical expenses and my deductible is $5,000, well then my $5,000 based on this cycle of care, I go every 3 months here, there, blah, 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 it's going to kick in right here and they're going to start covering their higher percentage, or they're going to cover 100%, whatever it is, depending on the care. So don't be overwhelmed. As I said, it can be very complicated. I would love to walk you through this in a coaching session. So reach out to me if you need any help, if you have any further questions. This has been Jeremy with Strength in Numbers, helping you keep your wallet heavy and your heart light.